in order to get engagement, you have to also have people that want to engage, not people that just want to consume and then just scroll by.
Hey guys, today we have someone special with us. We have Fabio Marrama. So Fabio Marrama is a LinkedIn marketing consultant from Ontario, Canada. So he helps experts build a brand and reach more customers, especially on LinkedIn. Fabio, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. No, I really, really appreciate it. Anytime we talk about LinkedIn, it's one of the favorite things that I love to talk about. Of course, you as well. So looking forward to giving some value today.
Yep, Fabio, we've been connected for, I think, close to 2 years since we've connected on LinkedIn. And I saw perhaps maybe your growth on LinkedIn when before you became a consultant, but most of my audience did not. So can you tell us a brief, history of how you got started on LinkedIn?
Yeah, for sure. I think that I got started on LinkedIn like a lot of people probably do, right? They do it for work and they're like, yeah, this is an online resume, right? So I started in probably, I think I had a profile since about 2011, but didn't do a whole lot with it. I had, just my like work accomplishments and, very resume based until, it was really only about until I think it was like end of 2017, early 2018 that, I really saw the opportunity in the platform. And so, I started logging on, and what was, once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, turned into multiple times a week. And, when I was logging in, I would look at the news feed, I would see content, I would see a very different and unique platform that I was not used to with LinkedIn. And so at that point, I also started seeing the same people. They're always in the top of my news feed. Their content was always showing. And I said, who are these people? I don't even know them, but I love what they're doing. And started following some of them, Michaela Alexis and Swishka Swami and some great people that kind of started on the platform first with content. And I said, I think there's some great opportunity here with LinkedIn, and I could share my message on the world of business, marketing. So I just started doing that. What started out was just, hey, I want to impact students. I wanted to really impact students and young professionals and entrepreneurs. Started doing that, providing concepts on marketing and branding, leadership, and not really understanding really what I loved or what I really wanted to talk about. And then when I started to just continue posting, I started to hone in on what are the things that I love talking about. And I just did more of that and more of that. And it kind of course, led me to some great people, like Jay Shetty and Dan Locke and Miguel Forbes, and some great people on the platform that I was able to have conversations with, do content with. And I thought, this is an amazing platform for connectivity. And, I said, I'm going to keep scaling it. And so through scaling, understood how the platform worked more, and had people then reach out to me. How do I, grow on LinkedIn? And I'm like, well, I guess I can help you with that, which then sort of just, naturally flourished and turned into the opportunity to help people build a brand and presence on the platform themselves.
Yeah, great stuff, Fabio. So one of the things is that you establish yourself as an authority on LinkedIn. You have a course, you talk to influencers and key opinion leaders and thought leaders about LinkedIn. So how did you establish your own authority, as an expert?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bob. And I think a lot of people ask me that. They're like, I don't know a lot of influential people. Like, I don't know where to start or who I need to talk to. And I think the reality is everybody's there at some point, right? Like I didn't know you, Bob, 2 years ago. So it's like, how do you get to that point, right? And so I think that's where you got to think about, okay, number one, I got to start doing something. I got to start talking about my industry. And I think, I think a lot of people have a very scarce mindset as opposed to an abundance mindset. So they talk themselves out of doing something, thinking like, who am I to create content? Who's going to want to listen to me? Like, why wouldn't they just listen to someone with more experience? And so when you think of that it just like cripples people from actually creating or documenting their journey or providing value in their industry or in their niche or space. And I think that's where, if people realize that they do have value to share, number one, they can create that. And number one, that creates influence. Number two, how do you grow influence? So you can establish yourself with your content. How do you scale and grow that? I firmly believe is by connecting yourself with people that have already walked the path that you want to travel on. And so, like you said, influencers. How do you connect with influencers? Well, I think the best way is to create, for a lot of people, like a series, or create something where all you need is something small, and then you work your way up. So use a small influencer who, if you do a little bit of research, you might find that they have a little bit of a relationship with a bigger one, a smaller one. So use that person, do a series or a video on them or what have you. And then when you go and ask the next person, be like, hey, here's who I've done it with already. Name drop maybe that close friend or that close person that they know who's a smaller influencer. And it might trigger them to say, oh, cool. Like, yeah, I'm in as well. And then you just sort of work your way up that way. And when you do that, I firmly believe that a lot of people don't realize, they think they have to do it themselves. But when you interview influencers and when you do collab videos with them or if you have a podcast and you get them on it, like when you do that, you are actually creating influence yourself, right? Because you're attaching yourself to the influence of someone else. So someone else sees like a Dan Locke or a Jay Shetty, and they're like, oh, you got Jay Shetty on. So they would see the person doing the interview as influential as well, because you're associating yourselves with that person. And I think someone who's done this very well, even before he was successful, was Tom Bilyeu. He built his entire brand, essentially, impact theory, on interviewing other influencers and people in the space, which, as a byproduct, grew his influence and his expertise in his industry as well. So I think that's really, really key, is got to post content, got to create yourself to establish that authority, but attaching yourself with influencers is huge as well. A lot of people they overlook that. It's a big quality.
Yeah. Good job, Fabio. Because to my audience, Fabio has established himself with the likes of Jay Shetty. If you go to Fabio's profile, you'll see the testimony from Jay Shetty. He has been on numerous podcasts like Social Media Examiner, Dan Locke Show, and so many other podcasts out there. But what caught my eye, Fabio, is your recent post on how to network with media and PR on LinkedIn. That I really found interesting, because a lot of experts here on LinkedIn would want to look for like a Forbes feature, or like a Wall Street Journal feature. So what I saw your post, but could you tell my audience, how do you network with media on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think that's another big one that is a huge advantage. That someone wants to get featured in a story, you want to get in a big publication. There's definitely still value in media today, especially for social proof for your brand. And I think that the reality is most media personalities, most writers, they're on LinkedIn. Like, they have a profile, and they're pretty open to you can do a quick search and they'll have it in their headline, like writer for Forbes or writer for Inc. magazine or whatever, right? And I think that, I shared in that video that some of the simplest things you can do is find an article that you love, right? Read it. Go to Inc. or Forbes or wherever is your favorite publication, or a publication you would love to get featured in, and just go and find that article. And if it's about whatever industry that you're in, and go, most articles have the actual writer that's in there, right? They have their picture, their name. Just do literally a quick search on LinkedIn. If you find them, and chances are you probably will, because over 90% of people are on LinkedIn. And once you do that quick search, read the article, of course, read that article. And once you read the article, find a couple key points in that, maybe a quote here, or a point here. And and then just simply be like, hey, I'd love to connect. Bob, I read your article on 5 ways people can build their personal brand in 2019. And I thought it was really insightful when you used this quote. And, I would love to connect. I think people really resonate with that. And they're like, oh, awesome. Then you can connect with them and build that relationship.
Yeah. The key thing here is, do you agree that you should lead with a question? Like, first you find the value, and subsequently you lead with a question related to his work.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's totally helpful. It'd be like, most people want to answer that. You could say, something related to that article, right? Let's say personal branding, because we're talking about that. You could say, hey, I love that your 5 points. Which one do you think is the most powerful out of the 5 points? Or I don't know, like, what did you find to be your favorite one to write about? Anything, like, trigger a response from that writer, that person, they'll
Yeah.
more than likely connect back with you and be like, oh, thank you so much for reading and for also reaching out and letting me know like what you liked about it.
Yeah.
Do that like 100 times. Do that 500 times. Find 500 different writers.
Yeah.
And go connect with them. Now, if they're marketing or branding or whatever niche they write about, now if you're providing value on LinkedIn and content in that industry,
yeah,
you're going to continue showing up on their newsfeed because the reality is there's not a lot of people that are posting content on LinkedIn. So every time they log in, they're going to see you and they're going to be like, huh, I remember when you reached out, maybe this is someone I could do an article on. Or, if you're for yourself, if maybe you find that someone doesn't reach out, maybe you can do the outreach later. Like, hey, I've been posting some content on this. I continue seeing your stuff as well. We'll love to see if there's any opportunity to do an article in Forbes or whatever. I'd love to curate some content for you as well. They're always looking for content, right? Even if you say, I'll find 5 people for you that can do this article in this industry and we can provide 5 tips each. Most people are like, cool, yeah, if you put that together for me, let's see what you got. And it's worth a shot, right? I think that's gives you the opportunity that it opens the door. It's just you now have to walk through and do a little bit of work.
Yeah. I think what you said there just defines what you said in your post, which is the long game, which comes natural to you, but most people don't get. So just to make it clear, is once you connect with media, the long game is when you show up with content and you build that relationship there. One day you might add value or they might invite you for a feature.
Exactly.
Yes, I hope I'm happy to get that straight. So, yeah, I think we need to dial back a bit. So that's very good stuff, especially for experts, right? But let's dial it back a bit to people getting started on LinkedIn. So this is a question I get a lot, and most of my audience would know that engagement is very important when it comes to LinkedIn content. And I see that you have fantastic engagement on your content. You get a lot of likes, a lot of comments, and there's a lot of discussion going on in your content. So, can you share with my audience, how did you build that engagement for your content?
Yeah, for sure. I think engagement has to be built with the right community. So if everybody gets 30,000 connections on LinkedIn, right? Pretty standard. You get unlimited followers, but yet 30,000 connections. I think that if you build, there's a lot of people on LinkedIn with like 50,000 followers, but nobody likes or comments on their stuff, right? And I think the reality is followers, they mean nothing. They're just a number, right? So what you have to do is ensure that the audience that you're building, people that you're connecting with, are very relevant. I have hundreds of people, engineers, data scientists reaching out to me, and it's like, cool, like I get a lot of people, but I decline them because I'm like, what I post may not be really relevant to you, or I can't help you that much, right? Like I help focus on marketers and entrepreneurs and digital marketers and coaches and consultants. Like you might provide value, you might have value in my content, but I can't help you that much, right? So you can follow me, great, but connecting with me maybe isn't the right thing to do. So you got to be very focused on who you connect with, because in order to get good engagement, you need to have the right audience. So if I was talking about marketing all the time and I was just about numbers and I added 20,000 engineers / data scientists and accountants, right? It's like lots of followers. I post something, it's crickets though, because nobody really cares about what the content is, right? Like you need to realize that the people that you're engaging with have to be targeted to who you can serve. And then the other thing is you have to have people that are active. The numbers are pretty staggering. The level of people that are on LinkedIn consistently. There's over 600 million users on LinkedIn, right? And over 260 million are actually active. So that means LinkedIn says they log in once a month. So that's already half of the people. You just take half of LinkedIn, to put the other half away, and it leaves you with half that are pretty much on LinkedIn once a week. So already that is one thing. And then even further down is people that create content. So out of that 260 million people, there's only about 3 million people that actually create content, which is pretty crazy. It's only 1% of people. So with that in mind, most people that create content also engage with content. So in order to get engagement, you have to also have people that want to engage, not people that just want to consume and then just scroll by, which is fine. Those people might buy from you and, give you some good value, business opportunity, because they're just silent lurkers, which happens. But you need people that also can connect and also engage in content. So in order to do that, you have to find people who do want to engage. So go through content. I love to go through comments. So if there's a good video that has a lot of engagement, I will go through the comments and find people that are, with their headlines that are relevant to me. I'll go add them, because I'm like, if I add 100 people, I know it's 100 people that are logging in a few times on LinkedIn a day and just consuming content and engaging back and commenting. So I need to add more of those people. When I do that, every comment that I get, I now get to be shown to their second degree network, right? And their third degree network. So it's very powerful to add people that are both targeted and active. If they're not active, you're just talking to silent people, right? People that aren't even there. And that's the big thing, is you have to be very focused on those numbers of connections, because if your connections just are a number, it's going to reflect in your content engagement as well.
Yep. I think the one insightful thing that you said was followers is just a number. This is LinkedIn is the most complex platform, because it's not Instagram, where if you're 1 million followers, 100,000 people see your content. It doesn't work that way at all. LinkedIn, it's just fun. But
it is. It's unique in that sense. It's very different, right? And a lot of people think like, LinkedIn's not for me, because it is. It's harder, right? Because you have to build a relationship. It's not just like spray and pray, right? It's really about building that relationship, and of course, good quality content always works, right? Like first impressions really do matter. Like with video, short snippets, I find people love, 60 to 90 second clips. They don't have time to consume 8-minute videos. That's YouTube, right? So it's like people like short snippets of content, and then show me where I can find more if I want more. Link in the comments, a full podcast, whatever. Like give me that short snippet of information that I can derive value from. And so I think that's another key piece in terms of getting engagement, is quick to consume. People can provide a thought or an opinion on something through a simple piece of content. I think people try and complicate it. Keep it simple, 30, 60, 90 seconds, and that's it. And you'll keep doing that over and over. You'll find your engagement will grow.
Yeah, Fabio, that's a great point. So let's dive into that a bit, because you said good quality content, 60 to 90 seconds. And, me and you, we get it. We are on LinkedIn creating content a lot of times. We know how to add value. But for normal people, they don't see that lingo, I call it lingo. They don't see that nuance. They are more used to what Instagram and Facebook and YouTube is. So I tell some of my clients, hey, you just share how you can help people. But for you, how do you come up with angles for your content?
Yeah, so I like to say there's 4 pillars. There's 4 pillars that really work well on LinkedIn, given the platform. So number 1 is content that is educational, right? So you need to have content that teaches something or educates, because I think it's a platform where people are very business minded or business focused, right? Where whether work related, they're there to learn something, or they're there to learn new things or meet new people, or level up their game, grow their business, grow in their career, scale something, right? Their startup. So people already have that mindset of, I'm here to get some value from this content. They're not just here to scroll and see cat videos, right? So they're there to see something very specific. So if you educate somebody on something, that's a good pillar to have with your content. Number 2 is inform someone. So you want to inform somebody, have content that's informative. So maybe it's a change in your industry. Like, hey, did you know the fintech industry is changing like crazy next year? Here's a big change that's coming. Cool. Like people that are relevant to that information want to see that. So that's another good piece. So educational, informative, and then I like to say inspirational or motivational. That's always works well on LinkedIn for that industry. It's, you're motivating someone to take action, change a thought, right? So that's another big one. And then lastly is the 4th pillar is entertaining. And I like to say is it's the most important, because you could have educational content and teach somebody something, but it can be so boring. You're like, okay, I'm out of here, right? But if you can take education, information, so something that's informative or motivation or inspiration, and then couple that with the 4th pillar, which is entertainment, and you could say entertaining content that is, educational, entertaining content that is, informative, or entertaining content that is motivational. That's your winning formula for how to create good value in content, because people want to be stir an emotion. happiness, sadness, people want to laugh at something. And if you can create entertainment with those 3 pieces of value in your content, it is a winning formula. That's how things can go viral. That's how people engage on things. So it's not just like, I'm going to teach you something today, because we've all seen those where you're showing somebody on a whiteboard, you know, you're writing stuff down, but that feels like you're in class, right? You have to teach somebody in a way that's also entertaining. And it really works well for LinkedIn because people are willing to sit there for 60, 90 seconds, learn one piece of value, and then watch your next video the next day. You're another 60-second clip and keep learning from you. That's how you show up consistently. People will recognize your face, and then they'll be like, you know what? You keep giving me good value. Now we maybe as a company want to work with you to see how you can build a bigger strategy for us. That's how good content works and creates good business value for people.
I have a point to add to that. So I was working with a client, and she said she's very educational, but she went too educational, like too deep into like, you know, like when we talk about Facebook ads, you know, if I talk about pixel deployment, something like that, it's educational, but it's too technical for anyone to get it. But what I say is LinkedIn is still awareness. So you need to talk about, you know, introductions and, you know, top of mind stuff in many ways.
100%. I totally agree with you, Bob, because I think that's where people can lose people is talking about technobabble. You're so passionate and about like, and so knowledgeable about your topic. You kind of realize that like, oh, not everybody's at that level. They're not here. They're actually here. How do I talk to them at this level? And then maybe work to get them to this level, right? And so I totally agree with that. Like we talk about like a pixel, people are like, what is that, right? Like the newest Google phone or something, right? So, you know.
There's a place for that. Yeah, there's a place
for sure.
It could be LinkedIn articles. It could be maybe text, but definitely not on video.
Yeah, or it could be advertising, right? Like, because now you can target people that are very familiar with Facebook ads and have a certain degree of knowledge, and they're like maybe experts in the space and want to grow a little bit better. Like that's a good place to do, because you can do some good advertising, good targeted advertising with people as well. Or, you know, you're calling out certain people on LinkedIn, you know, hey, expert digital marketers, here's something like maybe you connect with digital marketers and they maybe have a little bit more of a knowledge with this, right? Whereas maybe an entrepreneur hires someone to do that. They won't know what a pixel is, but a digital marketer or social media marketer might, right? And they're like, okay, I'll listen to this, right? So helpful for them.
Yeah, that's a good point. So down to almost our last question. So we talk about content, we talk about awareness. So down to the very important part. This is the part where it's so important, and I know you know what's coming, is, you know, how to generate leads from all this stuff going on here on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? Because where does all this go to, right? At the end of the day, you can ask anybody, right? Like LinkedIn is the tool, right? It's a tool. It's the drill that you're ultimately wanting the hole, right? To create business value, and LinkedIn is the tool to help drill that hole, right? So leads is at the end of the day everything. So, you know, I think a big way to do that, yes, content can absolutely do that. A lot of people focus on outreach, and there's a lot of people that kind of do automation with, you know, direct messages. And I think that people are very desensitized to that, where it's like they just completely turn off because that's kind of old LinkedIn. They feel like they're getting spammed. You have to think about a new way of doing it. And so one way that has actually worked really well with me, and that I've been working with other people on, is giving people good resource value. So if you're giving people resources, so for example, I just did a post a few posts ago, a couple posts ago, where I did a webinar, and I was doing a LinkedIn webinar, and I was giving away free value, and I did a quick like 60-second video where I just showed my webinar sped up like 5 times fast. So me going through all the slides is really, really quick, and I said like, hey, click on free webinar, and I put like comment below and I'll send the link to you. Comment, crush it below, and I'll send the link to you. And you know, the more comments that were generated, people were like, yes, I want it. Yeah, crush it. And then that comment created more virality because it created more people to see the post and more people to comment because they wanted the value. And then people will go through my webinar, and then some people were like, hey, yeah, I want to learn more. This was fantastic. What would it be like to work with you? Right? So I think that's a good way to, yes, you're going to get people that just want the free content, no problem. That's a good way to get people to like drive them into your funnel, because you need people to come into your funnel, right? Like you can do the direct messaging, which is great, but I think the funnel works really, really well. And I think the other thing too is just hopping on a one-on-one chat with someone, right? Like building that relationship really, really works. People are like, it takes so long to do that. Sure it does. But like, if you want good value, like good clients, talking like you and I are right now, what would be the chances of you landing someone like if you were speaking to an executive at a Fortune 500 company right now, right? And you just got to build that relationship with them, got 30 minutes on their calendar, talk to them about the value of LinkedIn, got to know them and their business a little bit. Like you now got a good in, right? Where you could not win $1,000, you could win, $30,000 in new business from this company, from this executive, because they've now built that relationship with you and see the value in what you have to offer. I think good relationship building is key. Whether that's jumping on a phone call with them or on a video like we are, is really, really important. But it depends it just really depends what people do, right? Like if you have a digital product online, like it's easier for you to generate those sales. But if you're like, your product's a physical product, or you're a local business that's like a brick and mortar, a little bit tougher to do, right? Because it's a digital platform. So it really depends on what your business is that could really help you generate better leads. And LinkedIn is really good from a digital online fulfillment of the product or service. So coaches, consultants, online business entrepreneurs that could, software, that sort of thing can work really, really well on LinkedIn.
Yeah. That's a good point, Fabio. So in the first place, let's relate back to the beginning of this interview. First, before you jump on a call or get somebody on the video like this, we talked about initially how to build your authority, if you position yourself as an expert in your profile and your content. So when people jump on a call with you, they're expecting something and they're looking forward to talk with you, right? So after that, before the call, also back to content, that's where you do your funnel and your lead gen, and all goes back to first being that expert and then going down the funnel, which is to getting them on a phone call.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think that's there's an ascension, right? You got to start somewhere. If you just start out like trying to get leads and you're just literally like hammering people with that and you haven't built trust, social proof, and authority, you got to go through a process. People need to know you, then they like you, right? They can't like you before they know you, right? After they like you, then you build trust, right? Know, like, and trust. It's a pretty simple formula. Once you build that trust, that's when you can start having those conversations and establishing that authority, and then working that into a conversation, especially for business opportunity, whether that's a one-on-one conversation or through content. And we've got inbound leads through that. So, I think it's a good way to sort of build up. Sometimes people don't want to go through that process, no problem, but they find they might struggle because they think it's a quick thing that can just get them leads overnight. But it really does take some time. But when you really establish and build that authority in your space, then it becomes really profitable. Then it becomes really exciting because the sky's the limit for you. You can have speaking engagements, you can get new clients, you can get partnership deals, you name it. Now you're starting to create new business opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. It all goes back to even what you said about content. I talk to my clients and I say the best clients come from content because, like you said, educational, informational, they've learned something from you. So when they get on board as a client, you don't really have to sell to them anymore. You're done the selling through the content.
Exactly. And they already know you, right? Like people feel like when they jump on a call with you, Bob, I already feel like I know you because I've seen your videos, right? Like it's funny, right? But like you watch some of the videos, you get their personality, you get their tone of voice, their inflection in their voice. And then when you see them, it's like, oh yeah, this is just an extension of me seeing your videos, right? We're talking one-on-one. Yeah. And I think that's the cool thing that content does is when you build that trust, it's a lot easier having that conversation because you don't have to sell them on who you are. You've already done that with your content.
All right. Great stuff, Fabio. I really enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for your time. I think this is the end of the interview. In the short amount of time, we get to push out so much value from you. Yep. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it once again, and have an awesome day.
Right. Thanks, Fabio.